Well, it happened again. I got trapped in yet another escape room. My latest prison is Frieza's Mountain, a 5-floor dungeon that will test my wit and sanity as I attempt to summit the peak and earn my freedom. I begin the challenge with a level 29 Cresselia and nothing else. On the first floor, there are 6 NPCs and a sign that runs down the usual qualifiers for our escape. Gen 9 mechanics, no grinding needed, and all forms of luck have been removed to allow for consistent solutions. Kind of a hollow gesture to wish me good luck given that last point, but whatever. This first floor also has 2 caves to explore, so I head to the one in the northeast and discover 2 more caves within that cave, along with a Pokeball behind a ledge and a sign that quotes Robert Frost. The road less traveled obviously refers to the inner cave on the left, where I find a fairly simple ice puzzle. It'll take more than that to stump Dr. Flygon HG PhD. On the other side, I snag the previously seen item, which ends up being a great ball. Then, instead of being a daredevil and jumping off the ledge, I head through the back door of the other inner cave and discover a man who will reward me with Rock Smash if I solve what appears to be a strength puzzle. But since we don't even have the HM for strength, I decide to go back to the main floor and explore the other cave in the northwest, which ends up being a garden with a body of water and a small patch of grass home to level 29 Snorunt. Though for now, I decide to save my Great Ball until I have a better understanding of what other resources I have at my disposal, which means that it's time to live an introvert's worst nightmare: talking to people. The first NPC is the Move Tutor, who provides his services free of charge. A woman in the bottom right of the map provides nothing more than a not-so-subtle hint about my Cresselia being special, but the old man above her gives me my second teammate, a Riolu, who just so happens to know strength. The other NPCs are Glacia, who will provide hints if I get truly desperate, Nurse Joy, who will obviously heal my Pokemon, and then finally, presumably a trainer blocking my path to the next floor. But now that we've got strength, I can go solve that puzzle, which I'm assuming requires maneuvering the 6 boulders onto the 6 blue tiles. And obviously this puzzle too is no match for my sophisticated mind, so we'll just fast forward through this. Is this as fast as this can go? All right, well, while we're waiting for Boston's brightest to figure this out, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Holzkern. Holzkern is an Austrian accessories company that specializes in watches and jewelry made from wood and other natural materials. Every product is made in small quantities to ensure a high standard of quality, making the perfect long-lasting gift for your loved ones. And with Valentine's Day rapidly approaching, you'll want to check out everything Holzkern has to offer. My personal favorites from Holzkern are the Existential watch for a nice gold accent and the Antoninus watch for a darker, more natural tone. Are you wearing 2 watches? No. I'm wearing 3. Dana loves wearing her Holzkern jewelry, whether it's her composition necklace or her visual earrings. She prefers the nacre and gold jewelry, but of course there's lots of different options that can match any style. Are we still not done with the strength puzzle? Good God, man. Holzkern offers free express worldwide shipping, with most products typically arriving in just 2 to 5 business days. And any orders placed by February 8th are guaranteed to arrive by Valentine's Day. So if you want to get your loved one a unique, one-of-a-kind gift and support my channel in the process, you can use the link in the description or pinned comment down below and my code FLYGON at checkout for 15% off your purchase site-wide. Plus, you'll get a free gift bag. Yay! Thanks so much to Holzkern for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. With the strength puzzle masterfully solved, I'm rewarded with the HM for Rock Smash, which lets me do absolutely nothing. Feel like we went this way already. We came the back way. You can't. No, come on. There has to be a reason. Well, at this point, the next logical step is to fight the trainer blocking our ascent. His dialogue reveals that he's a dancer at heart, a rather on-the-nose clue to this battle's solution, given that our foe's first Pokemon is an over-leveled Oricorio. Oricorio has the ability Dancer, which means that she'll copy any dancing moves used by any other Pokemon on the field. On our first attempt at this fight, Oricorio sets up a quiver dance and then slices through my 2 Pokemon like a pair of perfectly cooked fish fillets. Though I've already got an an idea stewing for how to beat her, and it starts by catching a Snorunt from the garden with my Soul Great Ball. One Ball HG never disappoints. Now originally I thought the answer to defeating Bird Trainer Celeste was to use Skill Swap to copy Oricorio's Dancer and then set up a Quiver Dance sweep, though as we saw in that first battle, Oricorio would kill us with a Revelation Dance on turn 2 before we had a chance to do that. Instead, the solution is far more insidious. See, by talking to the move tutor, Cresselia can learn Lunar Dance, a move that causes the user to faint in order to fully heal the Pokemon that takes its place. But because Lunar Dance is a dance move, once Cresselia pulls the trigger on herself, Oricorio has no other choice but to follow suit. Now, Celeste does have 2 more Pokemon, including another extremely overleveled Oricorio, but that's where little Riolu comes in. He can use Copycat, which is granted priority thanks to his Prankster ability, to copy the move last used, aka Lunar Dance, once again tricking our foe into taking her own life. Bailey the Snorunt is then left to clean up Celeste's final Pokemon, which is a level 14 Oricorio, who easily falls to a single Icy Wind. Just shy of the 1 hour mark, we've made it to the 2nd floor of Frieza's Mountain. The only thing here is a Dawnstone and the second battle of the escape room. Black Belt Chosen's dialogue once again has some pretty clear hints. Priorities in life and the gravity of your actions indicate that priority moves and Cresselia's gravity will both be pretty important, though it isn't immediately apparent how based on the first of his 2 Pokemon, Pangoro, who's able to one-shot all 3 of my Pokemon. I decide to evolve Bailey into Frostlass with our newly acquired Dawnstone and then inspect her move tutor moves. The one that immediately stands out is Destiny Bond, which I can definitely use to net a quick KO, once again at the expense of our own Pokemon's life. Though of course it isn't quite that easy. The problem is that Bailey actually outspeeds Pangoro, and thanks to the snow boosting our defense, a single Darkest Lariat doesn't take the KO. And since in later generations, Destiny Bond fails upon successive use, Pangoro is free to take the kill on the following turn without any recourse. Now logically, it would make sense to try and let Pangoro hit us with Darkest Lariat on the first turn and then use Destiny Bond on the second, but this too is thwarted by a priority Bullet Punch. So it seems that Pangoro has me pinned. Oh, and I also can't just pre-damage Bailey against Wild Snorunt so that she's in KO range of a single Darkest Lariat, because Chosen heals my Pokemon for the sake of an honorable battle. I briefly entertained the idea of using Icy Wind to drop Pangoro's speed so that Cresselia can come in and do massive damage with a quad-effective Moonblast, but that does like maybe 30%, likely indicating an Assault Vest or some heavy special defense EVs, or both, to prevent exactly this. It's clear that the only way to take out the Dragon Warrior is with a Destiny Bond, but I just can't figure out how. Based on the dialogue clues, the answer almost certainly involves priority moves, though our options are limited. I don't see how Ice Shard will help, and Riolu's Prankster move seems useless in this context as well. So nearly 20 minutes of unsuccessful tinkering go by until something finally clicks. This is a priority move, as is this. It's simple. We just freeze him. Avalanche. Avalanche is negative priority. Oh, I get it. Do you see it? I was so focused on positive priority that I completely neglected the possibility of using a negative priority move. See, the way Destiny Bond works is that it remains active until the user performs another action. So after setting it up on turn 1, I can use Avalanche on turn 2 to ensure that Pangoro moves first, regardless of speed, thereby triggering Destiny Bond and causing a KO. Chosen's second Pokemon is Hitmonlee, so here's where the whole gravity part of the solution comes into play. A lesser known effect of the move Gravity is that it prevents the use of moves like High Jump Kick, Bounce, Fly, and even Splash. And since Chosen's Hitmonlee evidently only knows High Jump Kick, this forces him to use Struggle, which does massive recoil. Unfortunately, Struggle still does just enough damage to kill Riolu and Cresselia before Hitmonlee falls, so I need to make one last tweak to my moveset by teaching Cresselia Lunar Blessing. With this, she can gain back just enough HP to survive a few struggles and finish off our foe with a Moonblast, thereby winning the second battle of Frieza's Mountain. On the third floor is what appears to be our first double battle, which are almost always exponentially harder than single battles given the sheer number of variables present on any given turn. There's also 2 twin NPCs on this floor who provide medical services and forcefully swap out my Riolu for a brand new teammate in the form of a Protean Kecleon with a wonderfully confusing moveset. I have a feeling that this is going to be a really tough fight to crack. Interviewers Noelle and Alf have just 2 Pokemon, an Alolan Sandslash and a Snorlax. Immediately, my intuition is to use Protean to turn Kecleon into a Ghost type so that I can avoid Snorlax's normal type moves, though that does very little since Sandslash uses Slush Rush to outspeed and KO Bailey with an Iron Head, and then Snorlax simply opts for a Curse. That move is ultimately going to be the solution. I reason that if I can skill swap Protean onto Snorlax as she goes for a Curse, it'll cut her HP down in half as she turns into a Ghost type. Then I'll just have to figure out a way to deal with the remaining 50%. Though before that, of course, I first need to get rid of Sandslash, which all things considered ends up being fairly straightforward. After a bit of trial and error, I figure out that I can lead with Bailey and Cresselia, protecting with the former to avoid getting KO'd, and using Skill Swap with the latter to steal Sandslash's Slush Rush. On the following turn, both my Pokemon now outspeed both of my foes, so I can use Guard Swap to steal Snorlax's defense boost, and then use Destiny Bond to kill Sandslash. That gives space for Kecleon to take the field, letting me fake out Snorlax, and use Skill Swap to switch Kecleon and Cresselia's abilities. After a few turns of chip damage, I eventually Skill Swap Protean onto Snorlax, causing her to change into the Ghost type, and therefore use the Ghost type version of Curse. That leaves Snorlax with just a little bit of HP, which I plan to chip away at with boosted Psycho Cuts before getting KO'd. But then something weird happens. Snorlax gets afflicted by her own curse and dies. Turns out that the interaction between Protean and Curse is real funky, and it caused Snorlax to lay a curse on herself. I have no idea why this is, but it's another example of escape rooms highlighting the absolute weirdest and nichest mechanics of the game, and ultimately why I love doing them, no matter how much they bruise my fragile ego. Just under the 2-hour mark, we have now made it to the 4th floor where the penultimate challenge awaits. Generously, there's another move tutor and Nurse Joy here so that I don't have to trek all the way down to the 1st floor. There's also a ranger who takes my Frostlass and in exchange gives me a Slowking who's holding the TM for Thief and has an interesting moveset of Psychic and Counter. Floor 4 also finally proves that the strength puzzle was indeed worth it, as it allows me to snag a Colberberry from behind a smashable rock. And then the last resource here is a bit of grass, home to some hideous Crabominable that, after turning Kecleon into a Ghost type via Shadow Sneak to avoid getting killed by close combat, I can use Thief against to steal a held Muscle Band. So time to see what our next challenge is. Cool Trainer Rhyme hints at the key to victory being type diversity, something that's completely indecipherable to me as he reveals the first of his 3 Pokemon, Ferrothorn. I mean, a fire type move would obviously be fantastic, but none of my Pokemon can learn one via move tutor or level up. Nevertheless, I decide to level up both Kecleon and Slowking against the wild Crabominable since they both do learn a new move at level 30, and the introductory sign did say I might have to gain 1 level. Kecleon learns Detect and Slowking learns Surf, which don't seem immediately useful, but it does technically grant some type diversity, right? Eventually, after several unsuccessful attempts, I discover a way to take out Ferrothorn. It starts by using Thief to steal her leftovers with Kecleon, who then immediately falls to a Power Whip. After that, I can bring in Slowking and use Disable to prevent Ferrothorn from immediately taking another kill. On the following turn, I go for Future Sight as Ferrothorn sets up a Leech Seed. That's inconvenient, but not a disaster, because for the next 2 turns that Disable remains active, I set up with Nasty Plot and Ferrothorn sets up with Curse. This means that when our Future Sight connects, it hits with the force of our newly acquired +4 special attack, bringing Ferrothorn down low enough for us to take the KO with a Surf before he can retaliate with another attack. I'm pretty proud of that solution, but unfortunately, it ultimately doesn't work because Rhyme's next Pokemon is a Drapion who can kill Slowking with a single crunch. Even by holding our recently acquired Colbur Berry, we don't have enough HP after the Leech Seed chip to survive the hit. Now, there is one attempt where Ferrothorn misses Leech Seed twice in a row, so we end up taking the KO at nearly full HP, and this does let me survive a crunch from Drapion, who then falls to a +4 Surf, but this is obviously not how I was supposed to do this, and even then, Rhyme has one more Pokemon, a level 39 Brave Birding Staraptor, who can freely rip through the remains of my team. So at this point, I had spent over an hour on this battle, and I felt nowhere closer to figuring things out. The Nasty Plot Future Sight strategy, while cool, was almost certainly the wrong path to go down, and there were dozens of other move tutor moves that I could teach my 3 teammates, but I had no other hunches. I was completely and utterly defeated. I needed help. But was I really gonna use a hint? They're discouraged. Even so, I was mere minutes from caving in and completely abandoning my dignity. Though before that, I did have one last idea, and that was to head back to the garden on the first floor to see if I could maybe thief an item off of a wild Snorunt. Now, in retrospect, that makes absolutely no sense since I had already caught a Snorunt and she was, in fact, not holding an item. But in my delirious and desperate state of mind, it felt like my only play. And as stupid of an idea as that may have been, it ultimately did provide my salvation. I have no idea what spurred me to interact with the water. Not once over the last hour did I even entertain the idea that I could use Slowking, one of the few Pokemon that learns Surf by level up, to travel across this water. I was so tunnel visioned on using Surf for damage, and I had completely forgotten that this body of water even existed. I feel like an idiot. Then again, forgetting about bodies of water is pretty common. You'd be surprised by the number of people who forget about the giant lake south of Minnesota. Anyways, by using Surf, I get access to a small cave that contains the TM for Fire Blast, making the solution to the fight against Cool Trainer Rhyme far more straightforward than I ever could have imagined. Slowking can now immediately one-shot Ferrothorn with Fire Blast. Then, at full HP, he can use the Colbur Berry to survive a crunch from Drapion and take the KO with a counter. So his final job is to then die to Staraptor's Brave Bird, doing just a tiny bit of chip as a result. Next, Kecleon can come out, and with the help of a held muscle band, do another smidge of damage with Fake Out. Then I make a hard switch to Cresselia, who lays down her life for another massive chunk of recoil. With that, I can bring Kecleon back in and Fake Out again, which does just enough for us to take the KO with a Protean boosted Sucker Punch on the following turn. The 3-hour mark may have come and gone, but I've officially made it to the final floor. Though first, Scott, remarkably underdressed as he may be, exchanges my Kecleon and Slowking for a Hariyama, Togekiss, and Ladian. He also gives me a few ability patches and capsules, but with the qualifier that I might not need them. Our new Hariyama has the ability Guts, is conveniently holding a Flame Orb, and has a heavy-hitting moveset. Togekiss has my favorite ability Hustle, and knows both Extreme Speed and Heal Bell, while Ladian has the ability Iron Fist, which gels well with her moveset of Acrobatics and Mach Punch. This is by far the greatest number of moving pieces that I've had to deal with, especially when you consider the dozens of moves I have access to via Move Tutor. And it gets even more complicated when I reach the summit and discover that the last fight of the escape room is another double battle. Fittingly, my final opponent is Frieza himself, who has 4 Pokemon, starting with an Arcanine and a Darkrai. Pretty quickly, I discover that Darkrai has Dark Pulse and Dark Void. If they see a kill, they'll use Dark Pulse, and if they don't, they'll spam Dark Void. Arcanine, on the other hand, just goes for big damage with Flare Blitz. The good news is that Hariyama can kill both of Frieza's leads, even after Intimidate, and if I want to, I can use Detect against a wild Crabominable to pre-burn him so that I don't have to wait an extra turn for the Guts boost to activate. However, after a few failed attempts, I discover that Frieza's 3rd Pokemon is a Medicham, who will kill my Hariyama with Psycho Cut when given the opportunity. So we'll need to rely on one of my other Pokemon to deal with him. And then, of course, there's Frieza's final fourth Pokemon, who, even after several attempts at this battle, remains a total mystery. After about 30 minutes of testing, featuring a cameo from Poppy doing this, I devise what appears to be a fairly solid, if not inelegant, solution to this battle. My lead is Hariyama and Cresselia. I immediately switch Cress into Togekiss to eat the baited Dark Pulse as Arcanine rips a Flare Blitz into Hariyama. This does just enough recoil damage for us to now take the KO with a Muscle Band boosted Headlong Rush. Importantly, it's actually Togekiss who's holding the Flame Orb, which triggers a burn before Medicham comes in next. I use Detect with Hariyama to block the Dark Pulse and Psycho Cut from our foes, letting Togekiss freely fire off an Air Slash for massive damage into Medicham. That's more than enough for an extreme speed to get the KO, so I simply switch Hariyama out into Cresselia as a sacrificial lamb and take the KO before Darkrai does indeed rip a Dark Pulse for the one-shot into my very first teammate. I bring in Ladian next as Frieza reveals his final Pokemon to be a Melmetal, and it's a terastallizing one at that. Mach Punch does a pitiful sliver of damage to the bulky beast, Darkrai rips a Dark Void, we do a bit more damage with Air Slash, and then Melmetal kills Ladian with a double Iron Bash. Tragic, yes, but this means that Hariyama can come back in. Darkrai goes for another Dark Void, but since Togekiss is pre-burned and therefore unable to be put to sleep, he can now use Heal Bell to wake Hariyama back up, who then kills Melmetal with a Close Combat. The special defense drop from Close Combat means that Darkrai now sees the KO with Dark Pulse, as evident by detecting for a turn so that we can fire off an Air Slash. So, on the next turn, Togekiss goes for a Follow Me to keep Hariyama safe, meaning that with one last Close Combat, we've defeated Frieza, conquered the mountain, and successfully made it out of the escape room. Thanks so much to Frieza for sharing his escape room with me. Go give him some love, he's doing a lot of really cool stuff on his channel. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Or don't, I don't know, but I do know that you should follow me on Twitch to keep up with runs of my current ROM hack challenges. Stay tuned for more videos, and until then, remember to never, never, never forget about the existence of a body of water.